Okay. So my journey, I guess, really started at a young age. Like I was pretty like confused early, and like I came from a pretty like rough upbringing. Like my parents divorced real young. I stayed at so many different people's houses for big periods of time, and like really didn't have anyone substantial in my life that could kind of guide me in the way I needed to be, I guess. And I think the only thing I really cling to like as a child was music and sport. Like I frothed it so much. I was like, yeah, sick. Like my mum listened to like No Doubt, Pink, just like real strong feminine energy music. And then my dad, on the other hand, was like, Freddie Mercury was his idol. And it's like, cool, like this guy's super extravagant, and like, you know, you kind of see all these big characters, and it's like, cool. And I kind of identified with that a bit. It's just like, you know, you can be whoever you want because music shows that that's okay. And I think growing up as well, like you kind of learn that's not the case, especially I'm a 90s child. So it's like in the 90s, it was pretty brutal. It's like, you can't really be out there and be as open and like creative as you'd like to be because there's so much backlash. There's so much people like, just wanting to stamp out that fire, so to say. So I think in my journey, it was quite closeted for a long period of time because I grew up in this kind of area, Dandenong, Frankston, if people know it. It's very conservative, or it was at the time, and it's pretty rough. So grew up having to be really hard and really tough exterior-wise. And I mean, honestly, that's why I'm heavily tattooed, is because I hated my body so much that I wanted to cover every inch of skin just so, you know, I didn't look back at this reflection and be like, that person isn't me and that person sucks. I don't like what I see. So yeah, that's kind of like the real reason why I'm heavily tattooed, but it was more of a kind of like self-help mechanism for me to not want to do anything silly. And I mean, I've been down those roads a few times, and I think it was more around growing up and being told if you like girls, you can't be a girl because you were born a certain way. And it's like, I think it was pivotal at a point to be like, no, I am who I am, and I can be like exactly who I want to be. And I think as well, like it's difficult because I came from like a music, like a hardcore punk scene, and I came from playing sport, and I was so confused about what to really do and how to really genuinely take this big leap of faith and be like, yo, this is who I am, because it's so heavily frowned upon. It's about being tough. It's about, you know, walking kind of closed off to the world and just being like, yeah, I'm like that person, they're like me, sick, we're like this kind of tight niche group, and we all share similar values, but realistically, like that's just a front for so many people, I feel, and it was for me for a very long time. Like my first real tattoo was to cover my chest because I hated my chest so much. And it was a family dedicated tattoo, and I have nothing to do with my family now, so it kind of speaks volumes. As to how deep I try to kind of bury it. But yeah, now I'm out, proud to be who I am, and really want to showcase for other young trans people and non-binary people that you can, you know, not really know what's in front of you, but like aspire to be that person that you want to be, because heck, if I can do it at 31, so can the next person. My story in terms of sport has been pretty interesting. I mean, I grew up playing pretty high level sport as a kid, and then kept getting injured because my body is made of glass. Like I'm so injury prone. But it got to a point where playing men's sport was really uncomfortable because it was such an anti-queer space. It was so like, the word, I don't know if I can say it, but the F slur was used all the time. And it was just so negative. Even though I didn't identify as a queer male, being demonized as that for so long because I was more feminine than the rest, really kicked me out of sport. And right now I'm in a position where I play women's football, which is on a completely different spectrum, and it's really stigmatized to the point where I've had to shut down all my social media. I keep everything under wraps because I play a game of footy and I'll have some bloke on the sideline yelling at me abuse just because I shouldn't be there, quote unquote. And it's like, I should be there. Absolutely, I should. I am a woman. I'm allowed to play sport. And I think the thing is as well, like in AFL especially, they've got all these guidelines that you have to adhere to. Like I have to have my levels dialed into a specific place. And if they're not, you get suspended until they're back in place. And I think that's really overlooked by the general public because they're like, oh yeah, you're born this way. You obviously have advantages, but I can guarantee you I'm by far not the fastest. I'm not the strongest on my team, not the tallest out of all the women that play footy. So I think it's one of those things. It's like people are quick to assume the worst instead of being like, okay, like, sure, they've got differences, but at the same point in time, mostly I cop a lot of abuse for is because I'm so built, but it's like I spend up to 20 hours a week in the gym to have the physique I have, and all the other girls on my team are built like me, but because I'm trans, it stands out. And I think, sure, I can lift pretty heavy, but it's just through grit and hard work. It's not because I was born with any specific thing that someone else might not have. And to be fair, like that's just athletes in general. Like how many people are out there like Usain Bolt who can run like up to, I think it's 47 kilometers per hour. Like some people are just built different. And I think that's realistically what people really need to take away from it.
So what does an organisation like this do for people like you or people following in those footsteps? Why is this important to have an organisation like this?
Yeah, well, first off, for me personally, like I think it really gives a backbone and a bit of structure to helping out further to specifically trans and non-binary people, because it's like, all right, maybe they aren't sure of where they can go, and it's kind of like a place that they can come and they can reference from at the least. They can probably get more from it, but I feel having that and having, so much interaction with our specific niche part of the community, it will be really cool, for future generations and even current generations to be like, yeah, cool, let's access this.